Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this FIB eSeminar about the Marie Curie Postdoctoral Fellowship Program. This is a crash course for civil engineers interested in applying to this kind of call for postdoctoral fellowships. So we can start just looking at the program of the event. So we will have a very brief introduction to the FIB Young Members Group, and then we will have an introduction to the Marie Curie Actions and Postdoctoral Fellowship from Tomasz Wierzbowski from the EURAXESS Korea. And then we will go through the writing of the proposal, so how to write the excellence and impact parts with both Pawel, Sikora, and Nikola Tošić, both Marie Curie Fellows. Then we will have a short coffee break and continue with the writing about the implementation part and the submission. After this, we will have the two breakout sessions with the question and answer. So you will be able to discuss with the speakers and asking all your questions to them. And then we will have we close the webinar, the seminar. So before starting, just a few words about the organizing group. So the FIB Young Members Group is, of course, the group of the FIB, so International Federation for the Structural Concrete, made by young engineers, so engineers with less than 36 years old. What we do actually, we promote networking and dissemination of knowledge. Of course, we cooperate with the international, the FIB commissions and task group in trying to involve young members in their actions and activities, and of course also to create national groups, so young members group at national level. And also organizing, of course, regular meetings. We try to organize events and conferences for young members, and also special events during the official FIB symposia. If you want to connect with us, you can follow us. We can, join us on Facebook and also follow our update on the official website inside the FIB online webpage. And also, follow them on YouTube and LinkedIn, and also Twitter and Instagram. About this event, so I ask all of you to please update your name and surname on Zoom, so it will be easier for the speakers to interact with you, especially during the Q&A session. The event is now recorded, and we will be shared after a couple of weeks on the YouTube channel of the FIB. At the moment, only the panelists could speak. So during the webinar, the seminar, only the panelists can speak. But during the at the end of the seminar, so during the Q&A session, so in the breakout rooms, you will be able to talk and discuss with the speakers. So that part of the event will not be recorded. So feel free to turn on your camera and video and discuss with the speakers. So let's do a brief introduction about our speakers for today. So we have Pawel Sikora, that is currently Marie Curie Individual Fellowship from 2019 at the Technische Universität of Berlin in Germany. And before that, he was postdoctoral researcher in the same institution. And he has a large expertise and interest in 3D printing, nanotechnologies, and also lightweight concretes. Nikola Tošić is the other speaker from today. He's Marie Curie Individual Fellow from the 2020 at the Universitat Politècnica de Catalunya in Spain. Before that, he was teaching an assistant professor at the University of Belgrade in Serbia, and he also got a Fulbright scholarship that he got it in 2019. His main field of interest arise with green concrete, structural design, and also fiber reinforced concrete. And our last speakers, which actually is the first, is Tomasz Wierzbowski. That is the coordinator of the EURAXESS in Korea from 2020. And he is now also adjunct professor at the Institute of European Studies in Korea as well. He's an expert in European science, in European Union science research policies, and also geopolitics for the Northeast Asia. So thank you to all of you for attending this event, and thanks to the speakers of today, and please, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tomasz. I coordinate EURAXESS activities here in Korea. So basically, my job is to promote programs like Marie Skłodowska-Curie Actions or simply MSCA, and also other funding schemes under European Union, like European Research Council, and in general, Horizon Europe. My aim target are scientists and researchers based in Korea, but since the during pandemic situation, everything went viral, went to the internet, and we are all interconnected. So I'm more than happy to be part of this meaningful event. And I assume most of the audience is now based in Europe, and I am very happy also to connect with European researchers. So just to put Marie Skłodowska-Curie Actions, or simply speaking MSCA, in the context, MSCA is a part of Horizon Europe program. Horizon Europe is a European founding program for research and innovation. It's the most ambitious program in the world when it comes to the size of it. Currently 95.5 billion euro is secured for the next 7 years. Horizon Europe is, technically speaking, a framework program. The frameworks program started in mid-80s. First, it was the FP1, Framework Program 1, was for 3 years. And then in mid-90s, those programs were defined for 5 years. And Horizon, the predecessor of Horizon Europe, Horizon 2020, and now Horizon Europe are 7 years founding programs for research, innovation, and scientific collaboration in Europe, within Europe, and with Europe. This is how Horizon Europe structure looks like. It's divided mainly into 3 pillars. Pillar 1 called Excellent Science, Pillar 2 Global Challenges and European Industrial Competitiveness, and Pillar 3 Innovative Europe. MSCA Marie Skłodowska-Curie Actions goes under Pillar number 1. And pillar number 1 and pillar number 3 are for individual researchers. And these are bottom-up approaches to research, meaning that the individual researcher comes up with his own idea. The idea for research, the research topic or research expectations is not defined by the program itself or by the host institution. This is something that individual researchers has to define and comes up with. So MSCA is under Pillar 1, together with a little bit more ambitious program, but also for individuals, European Research Council. Now, how MSCA is aligned with Horizon Europe? Basically, MSCA tries to help to support certain objectives that Horizon Europe is supposed to achieve. Mainly, it should contribute, the research under MSCA should contribute, or ideally should contribute, to the European Green Deal objectives and to European climate actions that are also part of Horizon Europe. And more generally, MSCA should contribute to the European research area and European educational area. Always remember 3 fancy terms that are overused or used a lot when it comes to MSCA. These are intersectoral, interdisciplinary, and international mobility. These 3 things are everywhere under MSCA, and there's a huge emphasis on them. So while writing your proposal, always remember especially about those 3 I's: intersectoral, interdisciplinary, and international mobility. Just to give you a couple of figures from the previous MSCA arrangement under Horizon 2020, more than 65 researchers benefited from the program. The whole budget was slightly lower, was 6.2 billion euro. Now it's around 6.5. Almost half of the researchers that benefited from MSCA were female researchers, and there's a strong emphasis on gender equality under current Horizon Europe. The issue of gender will be taken into consideration while evaluating proposals. Almost 40% of researchers were from outside European Union, some of them even from Korea. And one number is missing here, but I would like to share with you. It's a success rate. Success rate for MSCA back then individual fellowship, now postdoctoral fellowship, was around, depending on the panel, was around 12%. So it's a quite competitive program, but I hope it will not discourage you and only encourage you to actually work on your proposal and submit it. These are key components of Marii Skłodowska-Curie actions, or MSCA. Now, in brackets, I put the names from the different Horizon 2020, from the predecessor of Horizon Europe, which was Horizon 2020. So former innovative training networks are now called doctoral networks, and these are for to-be PhD researchers, people who will embark on the PhD journey. Former individual fellowship is now called postdoctoral fellowship, and this is something that we will mainly discuss today, not only with me, but with our main speakers, actual MSCA-IF fellows. Former Research and Innovation Staff Exchange is now called Staff Exchanges. Co-found remains the same. And European Researchers' Night is now called MSCA and Citizens. These are more networking, public outreach events related to Marii Skłodowska-Curie actions, fellowships. One important disclaimer here, because work programs that will define the shape of MSCA and other calls under Horizon Europe are not adopted officially yet, are not published yet. Everything I will say here is still tentative, is not official statement from the EU Commission, and I do not represent EU Commission. I work as an external consultant, so please, this disclaimer you have down there, please keep it in mind that some things might still change, and I don't expect big changes or major changes, but certain things might change at the end of at the beginning of the official call, when work programs are finally adopted and published. So yes, today we will focus on a postdoctoral fellowship under MSCA Marii Skłodowska-Curie actions. There are two kinds of Marii Skłodowska-Curie actions, two different versions of it. One MSCA is called European Fellowship, and this is the program for researchers of any nationality and any field. I know that most of you here are probably civil engineering, I was told, but just keep in mind, maybe when you promote, when you spread the news about MSCA, the MSCA is for every nationality and every discipline of science, from engineering and natural science and hard science to social sciences and humanities and art. So European Fellowship is for those who would like to move within Europe or come to Europe from third countries, from outside Europe. And the other one is exactly the opposite way around. If you are a European national or long-term resident in Europe and you reside in Europe right now and would like to go to a third country, like Korea, for example, you are eligible for global fellowship. I will define eligibility criteria later on, but just keep in mind when you develop your career, whether you want to move in Europe, within Europe, or to Europe, or outside Europe for the global fellowship. Global fellowships are a little bit longer, because usually after 2 years of your fellowship outside Europe, you have to spend 1 year in Europe for a returning phase. You need to spend this time for knowledge transfer and sharing your experience within European institution after 2 years outside. Some new features that were not, I believe, were not part of the individual fellowships are resubmission restriction that will apply from next year, and there's an optional additional placement for up to 6 months in non-academic European organization at the end of the fellowship, which now must be an integral part of the proposal. I believe this was not the case with individual fellowship. So what is MSCA for? It's to foster excellence through implementation of your research project. Please do remember about 3 I's: international, intersectoral, and interdisciplinary mobility. And here I would like to add that only 1 proposal per individual researcher can be submitted. And in case of several proposals involving the same individual scientist, only the last submitted one will be considered eligible. If proposals with the same research objectives and work plan are submitted for different researchers, only the first submitted will be considered eligible. And the training activities implemented under the postdoctoral fellowship must include training aimed for key transferable skills, foster innovation and entrepreneurship. For example, commercialization of results, intellectual property rights, communication, public engagement with citizens and science, and also to promote open science practices, because every publication published under MSCA must be part of European open science. And in order to equip MSCA postdoctoral fellows with their skills that enhance and expand their career opportunities inside and outside academia, a career development plan should be submitted jointly by the supervisor, because I will mention it later. You are not alone in the submission process. This is a joint activity with your host institution, with your supervisor. It's a work done between the supervisor and researcher. And in addition to research objectives, this plan should compromise the researcher's training and career needs, including training on transferable skills, teaching and planning for publications, and so on. And the supervisor in different programs, it's called principal investigator. The supervisor is the scientist appointed to you, to the researcher at the beneficiary host institution, and his job is to supervise you, to supervise the researcher through the whole duration of the fellowship. As I mentioned, MSCA is for all scientific fields, and it's a bottom-up approach. And key actors involved in the process of submitting the proposal and research are beneficiary, researcher, supervisor, and can be associated partner when it comes to the global fellowship. Eligibility criteria for the host institution: it must be a research performing organization, university, research institute, or non-academic organization as well, within the EU member state or associated countries. And EU member state plus associated countries are called European Research Area. So for the European European fellowship, host institution and supervisor must be located within Europe. Likewise, for the global fellowships, for those outbound fellows, supervisor and the host institution must be located in a third country like Korea. Who is eligible as a researcher? The person is eligible when she or he possesses a doctoral degree at the date of the call deadline, which is September 15th. And what does it mean to possess a doctoral degree? Obviously, is when you have your certificate or your diploma with you, but also in many cases, because different countries have different standards, different tradition, when you can prove that you define your final defense, that your final defense was passed, when the defense committee can prove that this is over, it's also considered holding a PhD degree. And this is the next eligibility criteria is quite new. The researcher must not only hold his PhD, but at the call deadline, he must have his PhD maximum of 8 years. and certain career breaks like maternity leave, military service can be deducted from this. But basically, simply speaking, if you received your PhD in 2011, you are not eligible, and you spend your whole career, your whole full-time career in research, you are not eligible for the 2021 call, unless you spend some time outside Europe or outside research or maternity leave or military service. And golden rule when it comes to MSCA fellowships is mobility rule, means that you cannot have resided or carried out your main activity, which is study, work, research in the country you are applying for. So in my case, I am based in Korea and I have been living for the last more than a decade, which means I am not eligible for the global fellowship to apply for the institution, for the host institution in Korea. Likewise, if you are right now in Italy and you have been there for more than a year in the last 3 years, you cannot apply for MSCA fellowship, European fellowship with the host institution located in Italy, because mobility rule is not met. 2021 call most probably, once again with this disclaimer, most probably will be open on around 22nd of June. That's the last information I got from the EU Commission yesterday. I'm afraid it might be postponed again into early July. I don't want to predict, we don't know here. 2022 call will be more secured, more defined, and will be open around 13th of April, which is a normal date for MSCA calls to be open. And both, usually MSCA, I mean, always MSCA individual fellowship or this time postdoctoral fellowship are closed. The deadline is September 15th. Something new is resubmission restriction. This is something that was not under the previous MSCA individual fellowship. Now, when proposals involve the same recruiting organization, and for global fellowship is the associate partner, so if they include the same host and individual researcher submitted to the previous call of MSCA, which is 2021, and have received less than 70% in the total evaluation, he or she cannot submit the next year. So simply speaking, if you submit your proposal in 2021 and you get less than 70% in the evaluation process, you have to wait until 2023. You cannot resubmit in 2022. Once again, it's a joint application between you and your supervisor in the host institution. The final partner that clicked the submission is the beneficiary, is the host institution. I believe Nicola will talk more about it. And third countries like Korea can become associated partners in your research process. I think I'm slightly behind the schedule. I will skip this. Yes, the most important part is actually the financial part of it. So to the living allowances, a country correction coefficient applies to the living allowance in order to ensure equal treatment and PPP, purchasing power parity, for all researchers. And this coefficient is the one applicable to the country of the recruiting beneficiary. And the living allowance is a gross amount, including compulsory deductions under national law, such as employer and employee social security contributions and direct taxes. There's also additional mobility allowance and, if applicable, family allowance and long-term living allowance that I can elaborate more later, or if you have any questions. Yes, submission is done through Funding and Tender Opportunities portal, former participants portal, Horizon participants portal. I think Nicola will tackle this problem in details. Next opening call for postdoctoral fellowship is, let's hope, 22nd of June. Evaluation process lasts around 5 months. So since you apply, and you should apply before September 15th, don't wait until the deadline. Please try to submit it before. I think our fellows will tell you why. So after around 5 months of evaluation of consensus group, panel review, and other processes, you will get noticed. Yes, sometimes I get this question whether how many publications I need to be eligible for MSCA, how many patents I need. Half of the proposal that's evaluated is excellence of your proposal, 30 is impact, and 20 is quality and implementation. And when we talk about impact, you must remember that this is the impact not only on your career, so how your career will develop from point A when you get MSCA to point Z when you finish your fellowship. So you have to show this career development of how it impacted on you, but also impact on a host institution, on more societal impact on society, or impact on economy, or impact on our general science at all. Key documents that you have to keep in mind, I believe they are not yet there, but please stay focused. Be familiar with Horizon Europe rules for participation. Be very familiar with Marii Skłodowska-Curie Actions work program and annexes, and guide for applicants is your Bible. Please familiarize yourself with proposal templates, annotated grant agreements, and online manuals on how to submit an application. Remember, you are not alone in the process. You can always submit your inquiry to Research Inquiry Service, the official EU Commission arm to support you, but also please remember about national contact points in the country of origin of the host institution you would like to apply to. A couple of additional information that will definitely help you: the official MSCA homepage under Horizon Europe, founding and tender opportunity portal. Please open your account there and get your personal identification code in advance, because sometimes technicalities and logistic might be challenging there with the European servers. I strongly recommend you Net4Mobility Plus, which is a German national contact point for MSCA. They are very informative. They have a lot of resources. You can also search through Marie Curie Alumni Association. They are also quite helpful. You may learn from senior colleagues who actually received MSCA and get some practical guidelines, like today from our 2 fellows. And don't forget about EURAXESS portal itself. You can find your host institution there. You can find your supervisor there. You can find open calls right now, and universities that are waiting, universities or research institutions that are waiting for you to host your Marii Skłodowska-Curie Actions Fellowship. That's all from my side. If you have any questions regarding what I just presented, or any other questions regarding European funding schemes or programs, any questions or inquiries about Marii Skłodowska-Curie Actions or European Research Council, or in general, I will be more than happy to try to answer them. I don't know if I will be able to, but definitely I will try. So please follow me on Twitter. Although I am based in Korea, I believe you can still benefit from the information I share and from the promotion campaign I do through my Twitter account and through my homepage. Thank you very much. I'll stop here.
Yeah, so for Tomasz, are there any scholarship options for students outside Europe that is from India pursuing PhD? So I guess that would be the doctoral network, right?
Yes, that would be the doctoral network, former innovative training network. If you are based in India, you can still pursue your PhD under this MSCA action. I didn't cover it today, but please feel free to contact me. I will provide you more detailed information about it. But yes, generally, yes, you are eligible for doctoral program under MSCA. Yeah.
Okay, so thank you very much, Tomasz. Good afternoon. I'm Paweł Sikora, and together with Nikola Tošić, we would like to present you a little bit on the Marie Curie. That time it was individual fellowship. Now this is called a postdoctoral fellowship. So we would like to present you a little bit on the application procedure, on the preparation of the application for Marie Curie project. So what we found out during our preparation to write the proposal, we found out that there's not so many information for civil engineers. So actually, civil engineering is kind of underrepresented in the Marie Curie projects. So we saw a lot of presentations from the people working in the humanistic field, in the field of medicine, but some things are not applicable for us because civil engineering is a little bit more sometimes technical, sometimes more general, or the bigger structure. Sometimes some people consider it's more technical aspects than the science itself. So we decided to show you a little bit of our proposal, to show you some examples, and to help you. We hope we can help you with proposal preparation. So a little bit about us, about our project. So maybe firstly, Nicola, you could introduce your project a little bit.
Yeah. So well, hello everyone from me. Pleasure to have you all here and to participate in this webinar and share our experiences. So just briefly, just a few words about me and more importantly about the project. So the individual fellowship that I'm currently working on is called GREEN-FRC, Fiber Reinforced Concrete with Recycled and Waste Materials, optimized for improved sustainability of urban projects. So it's a project that's being carried out at the Politècnica University of Catalonia in Barcelona, so UPC, and together with company Smart Engineering, which is actually, and we'll touch on that later, it's not a secondment, it's something specific that you have as an entity with a legal link to the university because it's a spin-off company by the university. So in general, our project is related to designing fiber reinforced concretes using different recycled and waste materials. So it can be recycled aggregates, blast furnace slag, fly ash, different types of industrial byproducts and waste products and recycled materials, and then using them in different, let's say, infrastructure projects that fiber reinforced concrete can find its applications, whether it's tunnel linings, whether it's pavements, but also looking into, let's say, more structural applications. So let's say replacements of reinforcement by fiber reinforced concrete. And I'll talk about that a bit more later, how we got to the idea. But basically, what was, I think, helpful for the project was that my experience previously during my PhD was more just on the concretes with recycled and waste materials. And I, let's say, brought that expertise into a group that has very significant expertise on fiber reinforced concrete, but not necessarily on this part of recycled and waste materials. So this kind of synergy was something that was kind of a winning combination for this case. So just for you to get an idea about what is the work we do. So it covers the material scale from mixed design, it covers characterization tests of materials, then it covers also structural tests using these concretes, and then using those structural tests to calibrate partial factors for then enabling the structural design of such materials. So trying to cover this entire scale from material and structural, coupling also experimental tests with numerical simulations and analytical calculations. So just a sense of what is it that the project is about, what can be potential topics, but well, we'll hear more examples later. And well, I leave you now with Pawel, and then I'll come back.
Okay, thank you very much, Nicola. Now a little bit about my project. So my project is related to a development of the ultra lightweight and the lightweight concrete mixtures composition for a 3D printing technology. So I'm aiming to find out some lightweight solution to produce building envelopes, the walls elements, which have a satisfactory both mechanical and thermal performances. So I'm doing my project together under supervision of Professor Dietmar Stefan from Technical University of Berlin, and my second man supervisor, my partner company is a Sika company from Switzerland. So they are supporting me with their knowledge related to the chemical admixtures, while my main field of science is, I would say, nanotechnology, but I kind of shifted to the 3D printing. So this was also for me kind of, as Tomasz said before, kind of interdisciplinary approach to develop my career. So just a little bit more. So the aim of my project is to develop some methods besides developing the mixture for 3D printing, is to develop certain methods to evaluate 3D printed materials, because we don't have so many up-to-date any standards how to evaluate these materials, how to evaluate their internal properties, the interlayer connections. So I'm applying some 3D imaging techniques to understand what is, let's say, very simply inside of the produced or printed element. So in both cases, we invite you to check our websites of our projects here and as well here. So feel free to find more information. And at the beginning, we would like to present you a little bit on the Marie Curie postdoctoral fellowship. So general information before we go to the details. So the proposal actually consists of the three main parts. So the first part is the administrative form. This is called part A. So basically, it's rather simple. You put general information like your name, your nationality, your home institution. So I would say rather simple things, but Nicola will tell about some details in the last part of our presentation. And then actually we go to the most important part of the proposal, which is part B1. So this is kind of the core of our proposal. And this is 10 pages, which you have to write. And keep in mind that the template, there is an available template which you can use, very simple one, just with actually the sections. And this is in the rich text format. So keep this in mind when you will prepare your proposal, that some things which you are using in the Word format might not work correctly. So so keep this in mind when you will prepare your proposal. Some formattings might not work. So keep this in mind. And then the part B1 is divided into three main sections. So partially, Tomasz has mentioned about this before, and the value of each section is as follows. So excellence 50%, impact 30%, and the implementation 20%. I will talk about this later. Is this really relevant or not? But the most important is to try to keep, because you have 10 pages to write. So consider that this 50%, that's mean like approximately half of your proposal should consist the excellence part, and the rest should consist of the impact and implementation. So obviously this is not a must. So you can make, for instance, this 5.5, this can be 2.5 or 3.5. So it's depending on your project, but these are kind of rational division of your proposal. And then we have a part B2, which is, we can call it additional information. So we have a CV, capacities of the participating organizations, ethical aspects, and the letter of commitment. This is in case of the global fellowship. So what is important? Theoretically, part B1 is evaluated. So the core of your proposal is considered as a part which is evaluated, and you will get a comments definitely about this part. But part B is kind of a supplementary or supportive material where you can actually put a lot of interesting information additionally. So for instance, in the CV, you can put some important information which you can kind of link in your main text. So you can kind of refer to it. You can mention, yeah, please check my CV section 5. So then the reviewer can get some extra data about you, because the problem is that it looks that 10 pages is pretty much, but at some point you will realize that this 10 pages is really not enough to prepare everything, and you have to be really precise in writing. So this is, let's say, general information on the proposal. And now I would like to tell you a little bit about the, well, kind of a breaking the code. It's not about let's say kind of cheating or whatever, but there is a certain code which you have to do to get accepted with your proposal. That means you have to use a special language. You have to prepare a proposal in the way reviewer would like to see it. So you want to organize it in the way that it will be easier for reviewer. If you imagine that the success rate is 12% and you have like more than 10,000 applications, you have to understand that the reviewer, they have a really tough job to get accepted. So these are our general thoughts, which we have collected together with Nicola. I will get through them one by one, just to give you some general information, general idea, what we recommend to do before writing or before you start actually the writing work. So first of all, what I mentioned, excellence, impact, and implementation sections are theoretically 50, 30, 20%. But at the end, it doesn't matter what is the value of these sections. All all sections, they have to be really, really great, because to get accepted, you need to get around 96%. So if you want to get 96%, there's no chance to make any error. You have to make it like really, really good. And another information is that this is not a research project. So this is not a pure scientific project, but this is a fellowship. So the half of your proposal is, let's say, dedicated for the science, but half of the proposal is very important to show who you become after the project, that you will create your team, that you will become better scientists. And this is very important to keep this in mind. So don't focus too much on science. I mean, in terms of just to overload your proposal with many complicated things. And as I said before, the whole proposal in CV is a story. So treat it like a kind of the book that the reviewer can get through it very easily, and he can read it very, very nicely and in a pleasant way. And then about writing form. So in some countries, we have this problem that it is not encouraged. Like for instance, in Poland, we usually write in the third form. So the applicant, the PhD student. And that's, for instance, Nicola, how he has prepared his proposal. So it's not said this is wrong, but we do recommend, or it's encouraged, to use the I form. I will perform. I'm in the perfect stage of my career. I want to achieve this. I want to achieve that. So you know, be confident when you prepare your proposal. Then obviously attend webinars and participate in trainings, especially the ones dedicated to the writing. So although at the beginning all the webinars and trainings looks pretty same, you will find out that from each webinar you can get some relevant information, some extra additional information about the font size and about formatting. So we really encourage you to do it. And then another important information is that we really recommend you to start working on the proposal 3 months before. So don't leave it till the end moment. As you can see here, just ignore it and then, you know, start panicking and trying to wrap it up. Try to really start thinking about this. 3 months, it doesn't mean that you have to write it for 3 months, but try to get a concept, make a draft, try to let this idea grow in you and create a certain endpoint which you want to reach. So then it will be much, much easier for you to write it, especially if we connect it with another information that it's very important to really think about every sentence which you write because of the limited size. In the later parts, you will see that you have write so many information in your proposal that you have to be, at the end, you will most probably have to delete some sentences, and you will really have a big problem. Which sentence is more important and which one is less? You will really find it out when you will prepare your proposal. And then, since the reviewers are not expert in your field, so the reviewers will get some, you know, obviously they're working in the civil engineering, in the material science, but they are not working directly in your field. Please try to ask your colleagues, non-experts, to read your proposal. So let them read it, and they will give you the opinion, what they understand, what they didn't understand. Maybe they have some problems or it was confusing. You know, sometimes we use abbreviations which are obvious for us, but for some people are not, because we use the certain jargon which we have in our field. And what we really recommend is to send your proposal to the national contact point. They are really experienced in checking the proposals, so they can give you a really good input. They can really give you a good support with correcting your proposal. And for those who are non-native speakers, we really encourage to ask English correction service to kind of polish your proposal, to make it like very easy, readable for the reviewer. Yes, and this is a question which we often face with Nicola when we have our presentations, like, what about supervisor? How to find a supervisor? So there are obviously various ways to find a supervisor. There are a lot of announcements in the internet, so we can find potential hosting institution. But what we really both did, and we really encourage you to do, is actually to initiate cooperation with your supervisor before. So obviously now with COVID, it's a little bit more complicated to meet in person, but try to meet your supervisor at the conference. Try to contact him before, meet with him on Zoom. Maybe you can visit him for the short time to perform some preliminary studies. Like for instance, I did. maybe it would be really nice if you could write a joint publication. Maybe you can connect with your supervisor, prepare the publication. So then you have to start obviously a little bit earlier, maybe 1 year before, but we really encourage you to do so, because then the reviewer will also see that you are already have established very good cooperation with your supervisor. So that will make the reviewer think that, yeah, this guy, this person, this applicant is really well prepared to perform this project. And obviously, this is not a must, but we encourage you to find an industrial cooperator, industrial cooperation, to find industrial partner to perform your secondment, because this also shows your ability, your networking abilities, as well as the interest of the industry in what you are doing. So this is the example of the review comment which I got in my accepted proposal. So the reviewers really like it, that I kind of shown that I can network and connect with the industry. And then if you start looking in the internet, you can find some ready proposals. I mean, submitted proposals, accepted proposals in the internet. But what we really encourage you to obviously use them because they are available, but use them at the end when you will create your idea of the project. Because the problem is when you read them, you will kind of narrow your vision. You will have a problem later on to write something new, something fresh, which was not already submitted. And then again, make it clear for reviewers. As I said before, they are not experts in your field. And yeah, again, make it easy. This is very important about formatting. Make it pleasant to read, make it nice. Try to optimize everything, the colors, the images, and try to provide as much images as possible. You know, we in Poland say that image tell more than 1,000 words. That means you can actually, you know, this is the example of some accepted project. You can see that, you know, this image can tell you a lot of information and you don't have to write any text. So this is what we really encourage. And again, things obvious to you are not obvious to everyone. That means don't use abbreviations, which might be difficult, or the mental shortcuts, you know, some shortcuts that somebody might not understand. Again, that's what Krzysztof said, make it interdisciplinary, to say that you are moving from your field. You are good in one field, try to move it to another one. You know, that your host, your supervisor is having experience in one field, you have in another, and your combination that you are working in this field and your supervisor is working in this field, it will make the perfect project. And nobody can do it because you are working in this field and you are expert, your supervisor here. So you are like the unique team which can apply for this project. And then again, be confident, say that I'm at 80% of my capacity. So I'm good, I'm experienced, I have a good publication, or I had a good background, but this project will make me like 100%. You know, something is missing in my career and I need to do it, and I need to have this project to become like the best. And maybe your weaknesses could be a strong point. This is also important information, that there is no one path, what kind of researcher you have to be before submission. So for instance, maybe you don't have so many good publications, but for instance, in some countries, when you start PhD, you have a good experience in teaching. So you can use it as a kind of ammunition to the reviewer to show that I'm strong in teaching. You know, this is my ability. So I can use it later on for my host institution to teach the others. Because as I said, 50% is excellence. The 50% rest is you as a researcher. This is training proposal. So this is training project. So this is important. And again, read guide for applicants. This is very important, to read every requirement, because there are so many of them, not to get rejected just because you forgot to mention something. And before you start preparing your proposal, we really encourage you to go to the website of the funded projects and to check, to put the keywords cement, concrete, or you have a structure, or wood, timber structures, to try to look up for those funded projects. And as I said before, civil engineering is a little bit underrepresented, but you can clearly, you can surely find some proposals some projects which were funded. So this can be useful for you to see what kind of topics were already funded. Plus, it is a great source for your acronym, because you have to put a short acronym of your project, so you can look up which one is used, which can you develop, or you can get also some idea to maybe modify the existing one. And then this is also what Tomasz said, that Net for Mobility Plus, this is the German national contact point, and they have developed extremely good guidelines how to prepare your Marie Curie proposal. So all the informations are actually there. They are obviously very general for all fields, but we also based our proposals as well as this presentation based on the information provided in this guidelines. So we really encourage you to do it because it's really full of information, very nice examples. So yeah, just do it. And then, yes, so before you start writing, please try to read the working program to learn what are the requirements, to learn a little bit about the proper terminology, because you, as I said before, you have to use the proper terminology. You have to use proper language to show that you're familiar with the certain European Union initiatives, certain words, which we usually don't use in our, let's say, a daily life when you speak English. So please check it and then use the right template. So please work on the right template when it will be announced on the 22nd of June. Just please download the correct template and please start working on this, so you will have no, you will be not surprised at the end that you will have some problem with submission. Okay, so this is, let's say, very general information on the project, and now we will go to the details and to the section one, excellence.
Let's take a kind of deep dive into the sections themselves and really get into the nitty-gritty and discuss the details on how to formulate the sections, what details to look at. So we're going to start with the first part, that's excellence, the one that carries 50% in the review. But as we said, each one is equal. So another thing to keep in mind is not to over-focus or focus too much on the excellence, because as Pawel said, this is not simply a research project, it's a fellowship, it's a training project. So it's more about you building your career, what you want to become. So it's not just about doing the research, it's about gaining other skills and building, let's say, a better CV and enhancing your employability and full career prospects. So I'm going to start with really excerpts from the template, which explains very nicely actually what you need to look at. So we're going to go section by section, and I put it copied here on purpose to go through really each paragraph, because each one is important. So you heard also that before, don't leave out anything. So if there is a paragraph like you see here, discuss the interdisciplinary aspects of the action, you really have to mention cover every term that appears here. That's really important. So don't go again, reread it several times and say, how okay, in this sentence, did I really answer these questions? Am I really providing information on this? So you really have to, and do that in a limited number of pages, right? So if the excellence is 50, impact 30, and implementation 20%, that should probably more or less, not strict, let's say, recommendation, be the distribution of the length of each section within the 10 pages, so 532. But let's say it's more or less 532 plus minus half a page, 1 page for each section. So excellence will probably amount to between not less surely than 4.5 pages, and should not be more than 6, because then you really have little space left for anything else. Okay, so it starts, it has several, as you will see here, several subsections. The first one is quality and credibility of the research innovation project, level of novelty, appropriate consideration of multidisciplinary, and gender aspects. So, and then there are several subparagraphs actually, addressing each of these points. So first, let's say out of the bat, I'm going to say there is no really good advice I can give you on how to formulate the idea for your project. So that's not what we're going to discuss here. Obviously, it needs to be innovative. It needs to fill a knowledge gap, bridge a knowledge gap. It needs to be timely and within certain policies. We mentioned that, but really on what your idea should be, I can't offer any information. I can just say that anything can be an idea as long as you make it work, as long as you write it appropriately and, let's say, tick all the boxes. But that's where the other aspects come in of making it fit within your career path. So why that topic, whatever it is good for you and good for the host institution, good for society in general, and how it makes you what you want to become. Okay. So having said that, precisely in this section 1.1, it says provide an introduction. This is an important word. Okay, discuss the state of art specific objectives and give an overview of the action. Like this is, let's say, the main critical part. Discuss the research methodology and approach, highlighting the type of research innovation activities proposed. Explain the originality and innovative aspects of the planned research, as well as the contribution that the action is expected to make to advancements within the research field. Describe any novel concepts, approaches, or methods that will be implemented. Discuss the interdisciplinary aspects of the action, if relevant. Discuss the gender dimensions in the research content, if relevant. And then in research activities where human beings are involved in subjects or end users, or in research activities using animal models, gender differences may exist. In these cases, the gender dimension in the research content has to be addressed as an integral part of the proposal to ensure the highest level of scientific quality. Then it goes on to section 1.2, which is now a bit outside of, let's say, the main technical aspects. So it says quality and appropriateness of the training and of the two-way transfer of knowledge, also another really key concept here, two-way transfer of knowledge between the researcher and the host. And then it just goes on describing, outline how a two-way transfer of knowledge will occur between the researcher and host, right? So what is the new knowledge the researcher will gain, and what is the previously acquired knowledge and skills that the researcher will transfer to the host organization, okay? And then there's a bit more detailed description of what is necessary for global fellowships and describe the training that will be offered. And then it goes on to describe what are typical training activities. So these are more examples, but also very important. And what you see here, this is also something that forms part of the proposal, not of the proposals, but of the actions. The career development plan should not be included in the proposals, but will be part of the actions implementation. So this is another thing to touch upon in your proposal, okay? It goes on, section 1, it's pretty long, so it's 50%. Quality of the supervision and of the integration in the team and or institution. So describe the qualifications and experience of the supervisor, also very important. Provide information regarding the supervisor's level of experience on the research topic, their track record, so on and so on. Describe the hosting arrangements. So it must show that the experienced researcher, that's you, that's the official term for the applicant, will be well integrated within the team institution so that all parties gain maximum knowledge and skills from the fellowship, so on. For global fellowships, both phases should be described, so the outgoing and incoming. And finally, potential of the researcher to reach or reinforce professional maturity, independence during the fellowship. Researchers should demonstrate how their existing professional experience, talents, and proposed research, so all of them, not missing any. So when it says professional experience, talents, and proposed research, how they do this, you really have to show how all those three things do it, okay? Not leaving out the proposed research, not leaving out your talents, not leaving out your experience. So all three of them will contribute to their development as independent, mature researchers during the fellowships, not after, but during, okay? So going into now the sections themselves, 1.1.1. Introduction, discuss the state of our specific objectives and give an overview of the action. Okay, main error that can happen here is that you start with an abstract, right? So this project proposes to do this, to achieve that. No, you need to tell a story, okay? You need to, let's say, draw the reviewer in. So these are very busy people who get a lot of these projects to review, a lot of these proposals to review. And they're humans, okay? So their psychology works in a human psychological way. So you have to capture their attention. We live in an attention economy, right? So the apps are grabbing your attention, web pages, whatever, YouTube videos. So you also have to do it with your reviewers. In an ideal world, maybe it wouldn't be like that, but it is like that. So you need to make it easy and interesting, right? And reading a dry abstract is definitely not any of those things. So you need to start with an introduction. So I here pasted like an example from my project where you can see, I told you the project is about very specific things. So implementing recycled waste materials in fiber reinforced concrete, calibrating partial factors, something that's very technical, but it starts talking about urbanization, how 400 million people in EU live in cities, how many more will come to live in cities, right? What this means for the demand on infrastructure, on the maintenance of infrastructure, how this has led to sustainable development goals, where some of them are about sustainable cities and communities, right? What's the role of infrastructure in that? The infrastructure sector, not only that we live in it, but how many people it employs, right? What turnover it generates, and then what the EU is doing about it. So all of this kind of like funnels the topic down into this very specific point. So look, all of this is a very big problem. Within that problem, there is this small part that is related to fiber reinforced concrete and its implementation in urban infrastructure, right? But this way, it's kind of more interesting and like, okay, this is part of a very big movement of very important topics. So it becomes interesting for the reviewer. What you also see here as an advice is to use good text formatting. So feel free to put boldface, to underline, to italicize text in order to guide the reader, because even looking at this paragraph, you are kind of guided through the boldface text, and it kind of sticks out the most important concepts and words. So feel free to do that. Okay. Then comes, I mean, this was not the entire thing, just an example giving state of art, right? Then comes the state of art. So what has been done until now on the topic, right? You introduce the problem kind of, and then you set the general picture. So what has been done up to now? Keep it concise and to the point, so you don't have a lot of space. References take up a lot of space. They have to be footnotes, as you see here throughout the text. So as footnotes, they also consume a lot of, let's say, space on the page. So do try to keep them short and let's say really good references and up to date. So, you know, on some topic that a lot of work has been done in the past 10 years, don't cite a work that's 20 years old. So cite really recent developments, and justify your project idea. So show what it says here, present a need analysis. So identify the knowledge gap, right? So, okay, this has been done up till now, this still has not been done, this is going to be the next step that through this project we're at least going to contribute to achieving this. Is also somehow that the objective emerges really out of the, I pasted here a bit like what has been done on, you know, urban infrastructure, how much it's important, and how it's being started to be done using fiber reinforced concrete, right? But fiber reinforced, and it says, however, the use of FRC does not currently address another urgent problem of concrete, and that's the production and consumption of natural resources, right? So if we join these two together, if now we introduce recycling waste materials into fiber reinforced concrete, we're kind of bridging this problem and gap that existed until now. So it somehow becomes evident and logical that this is a good thing to do, right? Additionally, and not just additionally, but very importantly, why your project is important for the EU as the funding agency and UN and in general, but primarily for the EU, you really have to be up to date and well read on, or at least know in general, the policies, the EU policies in your area. So, you know, the EU will not fund you doing something that's not within any agenda, right? So you really have to know what are their objectives, right? So you have to know about the UN Sustainable Development Goals, Agenda 2030. You have to know about the EU Plan for the Circular Economy, the European Green Deal, the, you know, strategy for the sustainable competitiveness of the construction sector, and so on. So all these policies have their own objectives, and you have to find how you fit within them. So also, yeah, keep this in mind that they will fund something that fits with the agenda. I mean, not agenda in a negative way, but with the policy agenda that has been set for the following period of time. And within this, I want to stress that actually now is like the perfect time for doing research in civil engineering, because circularity, sustainability are now and going to be the you know, hot topics and keywords for a long period. And this is where we come in: maintenance, durability, repair, new engineered, tailored, custom-made materials, and so on. And new design methods, big data, machine learning, so on. Everything can be made to fit within here. So take advantage of this, right? This is the time to be doing research in civil engineering, really. Okay. Very critical part here that should appear, you know, at the latest on the second page of your proposal are the objectives, the specific research objectives, and probably and again, I repeat, research objectives, not about your career development and so on. Probably should not be more than 5. I guess it's a 2-year project. It's not much. It's not only research that you're going to be doing. So I would say something like that. Here you see 4 of them. What I put here, do not forget, and this is very important, quantifiable indicators. So, okay, look at the second objective, to develop a novel post-cracking characterization test for GFRC. This is like GREEN-FRC with, and now imagine if this did not say, okay, with the target COV below 10%, right? To develop a novel post-cracking characterization test. Okay, and how do I know if the goal is completed, if it's completed well, if it's, you know, even worth doing, right? But when I say this with the target coefficient of variation below 10%, and before in the state of art, it said that this was a problem for characterization of FRC, then you kind of begin to quantify things and then you can measure them and achieve them, okay? And also here around this area, you really need one key figure explaining clearly the overall concept of the project. So we saw one on the slides before, right? Somehow you have to do it. I'm very bad at doing it, figures and stuff, but it's really necessary. So, and very early in the proposal. And so not just a figure of one aspect, but describing the concept of the project so that it's easy also, because some people will understand things better visually. This is very, very critical to have. Okay, still within 1.1.1, action overview, describe how the goals are embedded in the research work. Also another very important aspect. So making a clear connection between these, right? You have your objectives that came out of the state of art. Now you want to do something, but you have to provide a clear link that this, what you're doing, is what will lead to fulfilling the goals. So here you see it written like this, like the first set of activities is related to research objective 1. So you go back and see what's research objective 1, and then it describes really like how you're going to go towards it. You really should be as detailed as possible. So it's kind of even like, you know, playing out the entire project in your head and then writing it down. So as you see here, like which compressive strengths, which volume percentages of fibers, which cement replacement percentages, what are the goals? So put numbers on everything, right? Because writing generally, you can do it for any topic. I want to produce a good method and a good material for good structures. Okay, so anybody can write that, right? You really need to quantify it and back up kind of every statement. And by this, okay, you're showing to the reviewer, okay, this guy knows what he's doing. So it's really kind of thought out. There's already an experimental program and so on. So and which method, why that method is good and so on. So really very, very detailed, okay? What I repeat here, and this is now into 1.1.2, discuss the research methodology and approach, highlighting the type of research innovation action. So here is just another chance to kind of justify the choices that you described on the slide before, where you maybe saw like 3-point bending test, non-destructive test, double punchy test, right? So here, this is the place to justify why these. So you really have to say which data will be collected, using which instruments, why that method, what will those results be used for later in the project. So really everything has to be described. And again, the main point is be very detailed. So don't just say, you know, advanced methods will be used to do which methods and why those methods are good ones. Are there others, you know, and has somebody already used the others and saw that it doesn't work, and now you're going to try this one. So this is kind of the level of fine detail that will distinguish your score later. Okay. Then it's 1.1.3 and 1.1.4 explain the originality and innovative aspects of the planned research, discuss the interdisciplinary aspects of the action if relevant. So here I say connect with state of art and methodology, and again it's just justifying and backing up everything. And as you will see, I mean, it's inevitable that you will have some repetition because everything was basically already kind of described in the action overview. These sections are now just your chance to kind of justify the things that you wrote there, right? So don't be worried if there is some overlap and repetition. It's inevitable, but this is kind of a way to textually, let's say, narratively explain a bit better why all those choices are being made and why they're the right ones. Okay. Gender dimensions in the research content. We said that we had this, and it said like if relevant. So mention it if it is a crucial part of the project, if there are any surveys and trials. And then this is an aspect that, well, it's possible to think like, well, what in civil engineering can be like a gender aspect, but it's not that simple, right? It definitely can be, and just, you know, honestly spend some time thinking about it, and you will definitely find out what those aspects are. I pasted here, courtesy of Mehdi Chogan, from his successful application. For example, citing a study, all right, from the UK on the gender imbalance in civil engineering, where women remain severely underrepresented. That just about 12% of those working in engineering are female, compared with 47% that they represent in the overall UK workforce, right? So you can think of aspects. Okay, if it's on the material level, I mean, probably you will not be able to cite something significant, but if you're then going up to structures and the effects on structures, you can really think about how does your project, contribute or attempt to, let's say, resolve these imbalances. So does it contribute to equal employment opportunities, right? For example, additive manufacturing, right? Is it easier to create female jobs in that aspect than in other, like in situ construction? So that can be one aspect, right? If you are dealing with, let's say, seismic repair, right? You can easily find studies of, let's say, the increased vulnerability of the female population after natural disasters, right? So all these are aspects. So if you're building more resilient infrastructure, in a way, you're really kind of helping to alleviate this problem, protecting women who are, let's say, overly exposed to some aspects of disaster. So this is an aspect to kind of spend some time honestly thinking about it and addressing it appropriately. So from this part, let's just try to summarize kind of main takeaways for this section from the excellence part, which is, let's say, the main technical part of your research proposal. So emphasize innovative and multidisciplinary aspects, but I mean, make it seem logical, that it makes sense, not that it's just multidisciplinarity for multidisciplinarity's sake, right? That it really fits in with the work. Show your methodology suited for reaching the objectives. Start with a real introduction, not an abstract, and kind of already show that you are aware of the main potential risks, right? So that this research carries some risk of whether the goals will be achieved and what if not. Not describing like a risk mitigation strategy, but just saying there that you're not overconfident, right? You are aware that it's not 100%. And take care of not to lack a state of art, like have these updated references that are from good reputable sources. Don't miss to have a link between methodology and objectives, and to describe the advancement of the field, right? So these would be kind of the main takeaways and advice from this section. Now we move on to something that can be maybe even more difficult for writing, because probably, as PhD students, and then later you're more used to writing papers, proposals, and so this part of excellence, which is about research, it's going to be probably a bit easier to write. So it's, references, state of the art, objectives, and so on. Now comes a bit of the personal part, because it's about you and like who you want to become and in what environment. So this might feel for somebody a bit trickier. And we get to the two-way transfer of knowledge. So really critical that it's a two-way transfer of knowledge, not that you are just, let's say, receiving some new skills. But we start, of course, with transfer of knowledge to the researcher from the host. So how will new skills be acquired? Right? There are many opportunities to do this, many ways of doing it. And we'll see later, like it's training through research, hands-on training, courses, and so on. But why are these skills relevant, right? Are they scientific? Are they transferable? So yeah, the point is there's so many applications, and there is this permadoc problem that everybody's becoming like a permanent postdoc, without getting jobs in academia. So not everybody will end up in academia. Probably shouldn't. I mean, definitely shouldn't. So you need to get transferable skills so that you can be also a good asset in industry, right? So this is also very important. As I said, many possibilities of preparing follow-up projects, learning about project management, supervising other postdocs, PhD students, master, undergrad, grad students, acquiring business skill, intellectual property rights skills also. And here you have to mention the career development plan, right? Okay, and then, I mean, all of these things that you put here, you also have to kind of let the reviewers know that it's a new skill for you. So like it is the first time that you will be supervising PhD students, right? So maybe you did teaching, but did not do this still, and now this is the opportunity to do this, right? Maybe you participated in some project, but now you're going to participate in writing another project, okay? Maybe your dream was starting a startup company, so this university offers great resources for business administration education, and that's what you're going to get training and afterwards going to work towards, starting your own company. So all these are legitimate aspects. I here put like just some examples. So like I classify them in a table. Tables you'll see from the template are sometimes useful way for kind of condensing the text, because the text is generally limited to a font size of 11, but in tables it can go down to 8 if I'm not wrong. So it offers you sometimes more space than writing things out, and sometimes it's clear. So here, like type training through research, what is that? That's the main research basically that you'll be doing. And then what's the format? Like individual personalized project, right? With supervisor guidance. Hands-on training, right? Then there are some things that you learn. Advanced computational engineering methods. You'll take a course, right? Intersectoral transfer of knowledge, full-scale demonstration of some material application, management of the action that you will be doing. So basically, or you can do a course on it. Dissemination and communication, you'll organize an event, an outreach activity, and so on. So you really can, let's say, do a lot of things. It's very diverse, and try to be innovative. I mean, now that things have gotten online, it's maybe, I don't know if it's more difficult or more easy, but more diverse, let's say. So don't repeat what everybody always says. I'll do a webinar on this, I'll make a web page and so on. I'll learn this on this course, try to make it also in an interesting format. And then importantly, your transfer knowledge from you to the host, be specific and be confident, like we heard before, right? So you are valuable and you bring a lot with you. You bring your own experience in the field. How it complements the host group expertise, you should let people know. And you bring also your professional network, but be specific, like specify the actions for transfer of knowledge. So for example, here I'm gonna put 3 full-day workshops and specifically what topics, right? 3 public lectures on what topics. So already think like topic for the lecture, on which platform is going to be hosted, maybe the general number of people they're going to attend, and so on. So as I said, quantify and be very specific about everything. Transfer of knowledge that must make sense within the context of the project. So, not learning about whatever, painting within civil engineering project. Transfer of knowledge that must help you reach your career vision. So it really has to do within this story, as we said. And your host should be the perfect fit, right? The host should have the resources to be able to deliver. Take care of overly brief descriptions, because you'll get comments in the reviewer form like not sufficiently thought through, transfer of knowledge, or not sufficiently detailed, and it will all be something like this. Like if it's really missing, then the comment will be, transfer of knowledge is missing. But then if you wrote something, you'll get a comment like not sufficiently detailed. What does that mean, right? Well, that's what the reviewer meant. Like you should have gone into more details, and then it's this kind of game, like what's the scale of measurement? Lack of transferable skills, right? As I said, not everybody ends up in academia. And maybe even having overly ambitious plans. Again, it's a 2-year project where you also have to do research. 1.3, quality of the supervision and of the integration in the team institution, not to be overlooked. I know colleagues who got, let's say, negative remarks on the capacity of the supervisor. So if he's a very young researcher who has maybe not even supervised PhD students up to then, or maybe just some postdoc, or has not been a principal investigator on a project, right? This shows that, well, it casts doubt that he can supervise the project adequately. So you really need to also demonstrate their ability. So, go into detail like H-index, number of publications in Q1 journals, number of citations, patents, do they have a company? What is their academic record? Did they also have some mobility in their professional career? What's their experience in the topic? Are they in international organizations and so on, with whom they collaborate? So you can write all of this here within 1 or 2 paragraphs. Then comes the quality of the hosting arrangement. So show that the host and the group are and I say perfect environments. We really have to use this word, right, for you to grow professionally. so that you'll become an equal member of the group, right? So that you'll be included in the departmental mailing list. You'll be invited to their meetings. You'll participate in other ongoing projects. You'll participate when they're preparing other project proposals. So you're really kind of becoming an equal member of the team, being integrated, not just, you know, working on your one little thing and not interacting with anybody, but actually working with the host. Describe the environment, so not just that group where you'll want to go, but other departments, right? Maybe these are opportunities for collaboration, other groups within the same department, and how you fit in there as well. And again, when describing institution, justify every number. So don't just say University X is a very, you know, one of the best universities. What does that mean? Anybody can write, right? So because according to the, I don't know, academic world ranking of universities list for this and that year, it was on this and this place, and then you put a reference and the link to the website. So this is something that's important. And typically, like the bigger universities will have a European project office. They'll be able to provide you with some, let's say, prepared information on this aspect. And the last thing, potential of the researcher to reach or reinforce professional maturity and independence during the fellowship, repeat, during the fellowship. Keep it brief and concise. Start by describing your current track record, like publications, experience in, perfectly if you have experience in writing projects, but also participating. Did you do teaching? Did you win any awards? And through this, try to describe like why you are unique and you have potential and will be able to carry out the project, right? So how all of this, like I've been doing this for my last 3 publications, this topic has been kind of prevailing, and this is now a perfect continuation or a kind of slight redirection into a new research avenue. Quantify, like, okay, you have five, I put here 5, it could be 3, it can be 2, it can be 7 publications now, but at the end of the project, I'll have 9, right? So these kind of things. Highlighting first author publications, your previous supervision of students, and so on. And my main advice here, like be positive, try to avoid like emotional arguments, like I'm coming from an underprivileged background or poor country or different things. I saw this, it depends on the reviewer, somebody can react negatively to it, like try to focus on the positive stuff, be proactive and kind of future result oriented, right? So okay, maybe like you work in the university, didn't have like the best conditions in the world up to now, but even with this, like I have these results, right? And I want to take them further. So, you know, don't dwell on the past, like so to speak, but really be positive. Okay, and I stop here.
Okay, hello. So we are back at 6 p.m. So thank you very much again, Nicola, for your part. So as you can see, the excellence is pretty compacted. It's around 5 pages. So we have to put a lot of information, and now we will go to these, let's say, the parts which are kind of training, research development, the career development oriented. So we'll start with section 2, which is impact, and what we can see here. So generally, the impact factor is the impact section is a little bit shorter. So we have like 3 main sections. So the first one is enhancing the future career prospects of the researcher after the fellowship. So you remember in the previous section there was information about who you are, but now we have to focus about who you become. So this is very important. And then we have 2 sections related to the quality of the proposed measures to exploit and disseminate the project results. That's mean we focus on expert audience. That's mean, yeah, we can say, let's say more generally like publications and the kind of showing your results of your project. While the section 2.3 is dedicated to communicate to project activities. That's mean to promote the project and connect get in touch with, let's say, non-experts who might be interested in your project results. So let's start from 2.1, and here you should focus to discuss your career prospects after the fellowship. Let's say at 3 levels: at the researcher level, so about like who you become, who you want to become, what you will receive after this project. Then at the organization level, how the host institution will somehow benefit, or how your, let's say, mother institution will benefit. So try to focus on this. And then at the system level, so how your research how you will contribute with your research to the society. So this is a little bit let's say slightly new. We didn't cover it too much in our proposals in the individual fellowships. So for instance, now it is recommended to address how will your research will contribute to knowledge-based economy and society. So this is a little bit similar what Nicola was talking in the excellence part, how your research will kind of contribute to the UN sustainable goals. But then you also have to mention how the skills experiences improve your employability and the career prospects, both in and inside academia. This depends on your career, right? And how your cooperation with host institution, what will happen with to the cooperation you have established with your host institution. I guess we can say that in the easiest way. And then this is very important to give specific examples of your career opportunities. And I have shown you here some kind of from examples from my project. So be specific and don't say too much. Don't write too much. Like 4 examples is good. Don't make it too ambitious that you will have this problem that the reviewer will say, yeah, this is too much. You cannot do it in 2 years. So, so in my case, I had 4 main future career prospects. So the first one, here's the example from my proposal: enhance leadership skills. So this is what I wanted to learn, what I wanted to achieve after my project. So you can see here that I want to organize 2 days workshop. So I will be responsible. So I'm like clearly stating what kind of experience I will get during these events. Yeah, what kind of experience I will get after the project. And then it's also important to mention that you will be supervising the postdocs and students and improving your mentoring and leadership skills. So you are getting closer to becoming an independent researcher. And then the organization level, how also the institution which you are cooperating with and you will benefit after the project. So it is encouraged to mention that after the project, it will not end and you will go home, everything is finished. Try to mention that, that you are planning to apply for some project. It can be EU funded, depending which country you are from, how you want to organize it. It is encouraged to apply for ERC. Obviously, it's a big challenge, so we have to be realistic. We want to try or to get to the point to apply to ERC, but it's really welcome to mention that you want to apply together with your supervisor for the EU funded project with support of your supervisor. Then it's also important to mention that you will kind of would like to get a new cooperation, that the working within the project will give you a good chance to meet a new people. And then after you finish the project, you will have this cooperation established and you will be able to continue your career having a lot of international partners. And yes, for me, like for instance, in my case, it was like one of the most important steps in my career was to establish my own research team. So I have mentioned that in my country where I come from, we have a certain it's so-called habilitation degree, which is similar to associate professorship. So I was very specific. I want to apply for the associate professor position, and I want to become independent as a scientist. And for instance, what I recommend you to do is to find certain field where you want to kind of achieve something after your fellowship. So for instance, I use this chance that Germany and Poland, my country of origin, we are neighbors. So beside applying for the, let's say, European project, my knowledge, my experience, my cooperation can also result in the let's say regional local projects. So there's plenty of things to do. You can use to show that you are really know what you want to achieve. So this is just an example, but for instance, if you're from, I don't know, India, you can say that you want to let's say adapt some standards from Europe to use them in India and so on. So be very smart with this and use your background, your experience to show that to show reviewer that you really know what do you want to do with your career. And then the exploitation and dissemination of the project results. So at the beginning, it's important to mention very generally what kind of data will be produced, and what kind of plan of managing your results you will have. Since I have an industrial partner, I had to mention here that some of the results, like a mixture design and the numerical analysis, will be freely disseminated. So this will be published, there's no problem. But there are certain certain data and certain information which I would like to patent, or at least I would like to give it to the company, and that I have developed a exploitation and dissemination plan and the career development plan. So it's important that you are kind of controlling what you are doing over the course of the project. And then within this section, you have to mention also precisely what you want to achieve during the project. So how many publications, how many conferences you want to attend, and how many workshops you would like to organize. So also be very precise. This section is a little bit confusing for some of the people, because it's a little bit challenging to write which conferences you would like to participate in. This is one of the, let's say, suggestion that it's nice to put like exact names of the conferences which you would like to participate. And this is challenging because you cannot predict sometimes which conference will be organized, let's say 2 years after like from your submission. But there are some conferences which are organized annually, like FIB Symposium or the RILEM annual weeks. And this also shows reviewer that you know what is happening in your field, and you can prove that you are familiar with the, let's say, the most important conferences. But don't be ashamed to mention that the fourth conference, it's still not specified. So this is not a must, but try to be kind of precise with some of the information, and then always write here that this is one of the deliverable in your project. So later on, I will show you how to put it on the Gantt chart. So this is for the conferences. We believe 4 is like more than enough. And same with publications. You have to mention, although this is a must, that you want to publish 4 open access publications, and then you can also provide the name of the journals which are, let's say, respected in the field, so you can show to the reviewer that you are familiar with journal is good. And you want to like try to do your best to publish there. Then you can also mention that you would like to organize a workshop, like in my case. So you can provide this information either in text or in table. This really depends how much space you have free. And keep in mind that all of this information you have to put inside a Gantt chart. So I will show you later on how to do it. And then within this section, we have another small section about exploitation of project results. So this, I cannot show you the example so much because this really depends on your project. So what you will do with the data, how it will be used practically, whether it's used for the further project, or you want to use this data to give it to the company, you want to create a new standard. So it really depends on your field where you are working and type of your project. So I have mentioned here, since I have an industrial partner, I have mentioned here that I will really put a big focus on the intellectual property, that we will be kind of dividing the material which can be published, which is not, that I will develop the data management plan, which is mandatory to be submitted in 6 months to your project portal. So it is important to mention that you are really aware about the data, that you know that you have to protect some data, and you are aware which data can be used for which purpose. And then the quality of the proposed measures to communicate the project activities to different target audiences. So this is the approach I take here writing this part, was that I would like to become Marii Skłodowskiej-Curie Actions Ambassador. And I guess this is a pretty good approach, that in this section you have to write that you would like to promote and show to the people that this project is it's very important, it's very nice, and you have to have this kind of approach when you are preparing this. So obviously, depending on the field of science, there are different ways to contact the non-expert audiences. If you work in the medical sciences, you can make a meeting with patients, with elderly houses, so it really depends. But in civil engineering, I guess it also depends. Yeah, you can try to develop maybe new standard, or you want to contact with some union of engineers. So it really depends on the type of the project you have. But here are some examples which you can use for your project. And here are the things which I have mentioned in my proposal. So basically, the university visits. So that I would like to meet with students or generally present the Marie Curie projects. Then to establish a web page the Twitter and the ResearchGate profile to present this information, to kind of disseminate the information to the people, as well as participate in the long night of the sciences in Berlin to present it to the audience. This is obviously didn't happen because of the COVID, so it was a little bit challenging, but this will be kind of the risk we will talk about later. And then it is also important to stress out in your proposal that you are trying to reach the groups in the two ways. So one way exchange and two-way exchange. What does it mean? One way, that's mean you organize some like you have a web page so the people can just read it. And these kind of two-way exchange methods, like we have today, for instance, the Q&A sessions that we can discuss, and you can make university visits, you can speak with the people. So this is important to address it, that you are going in two directions with your in your project. And then we have another section, which is implementation. This is a 20% section. Although it's 20%, I got a lot of comments from reviewers about this. So it seems like this section is very important, although it's only 20%, because this actually shows the reviewer that you know how to plan your project, you are familiar with management, you are good in organizing, and you have idea how to finish your project in the proper way. And this consists of showing the working packages, describing the tasks, and creating the Gantt chart. This is a little bit challenging to make it readable for the reviewer. Then to discuss about management structure, who will support you in the project during the project, and a very short section at the end about the infrastructure which your university will provide you, your host institution. But this will be, this will be the end of the proposal, so you might not have a lot of space for that. So 3.1. The work packages. This is very important to organize properly work packages, to show it to the reviewer that you know what you are doing. And we recommend you to have, let's say, 5-6 work packages. That's it suggested for the Marie Curie proposal, like, let's say, rational. So then you have one working package for the management, one working package for training and transfer of knowledge, one if you have for a secondment, one for the dissemination and communication, and 2-3 research packages. Some people recommend to use it in the table, but me and Nicola, we found out it was impossible for us to create such table. But this is from the guidelines from this Net for Mobility, so you can use it just to learn which kind of information you can put, you should put where, and how to describe your working packages. So in my case, I will show you a little bit example here. So 2 working packages here. So this is the example how I did it in the text. And although it's recommended to do it in the table, if you do it in the text, nobody will reject your proposal. This is just some recommendation to make it more readable, but it's not a must. So the first working package is the project management, and the second one was already a research one. So development of ultra lightweight concrete mixtures. So you can see there are further steps. Deliverables, and this is important to stress out. Not every deliverable has to be kind of a report, or it has to be like existing thing, because a lot of people always want to make we find it out when we discuss with the people, they want to make a like report after everything, but this is not a must. It must be some kind of a step to reaching another milestone. So please consider it this way. You can also see here that you can try to communicate with the reviewer, that you can say, to give some note to him that you wanted to improve the readability, so you didn't provide some information in the Gantt chart. So feel free to make it the most readable for the reviewer, and just inform him that you have excluded some information from the Gantt chart, for instance, right? And then at the end of this, so this was a 3.1 section, and then in the 3.1.2, you have to also describe with the words how your project is managed. So this is the example from my project that I have explained, that the working package 2 will last for 12 months, and then then the working package 3 will start. So kind of explanation that you are familiar what you are doing, and you have it really planned in your project. And then we go to the Gantt chart, which is very important to prove reviewer that you have planned your project well. So you can see here, actually, I told you before that there should be one working package for training and there should be extra working package for secondment. You know, I didn't do it, for instance, and it didn't result in the rejection. So the things we are telling you is some kind of a recommendations, but you know, you can always adapt it to make it more reasonable and to, you know, the way you want to show it to reviewer. So then firstly, you just show how the project will last. So you can see that actually we have to go, or we have to try to organize it in the way that we are going till the end, right? So you can see here the milestones. It's going kind of till the end of the project, and we end up with the dissemination and the exploitation of project results and so on. So this is kind of a important thing. And don't try to put too many milestones. For each working package, it can be 2 or 3. So it shouldn't be too much. Also with training, don't put it too much, maybe 6, maybe 4, that you would like to participate in some trainings related to project writing and so on. And here you can see there's a lot of like D5.3, D5.4 and so on. So this is for instance the conferences which I told you about, that I'm planning to participate in 4 conferences to write 4 papers. So you can see if you put it on the Gantt chart, it's already pretty dense here. So that's the reason I said don't make too ambitious plan, because then you will have a problem with your Gantt chart. And recommendation from my side is for the secondment. I have planned my secondment, let's say by the end of the project. And actually that was my mistake, and that was one of the comments from reviewer I got. It's too late. So I recommend you to plan it a little bit earlier, maybe here in this phase of the project. Although the reason why I got this comment was, so this is very important, wise words from Nicola, I wasn't so specific. So my plan was to visit the company initially with the short visits at the beginning of the project, and then try to do my secondment, but I didn't state it. So for the reviewer who read it, he said like, okay, so he wants to do it actually at the end of the project. It makes no sense, because he will have not enough time to kind of analyze the data and wrap up the project. So this is my recommendation, to try to, if you have any secondment, to try to do it in the first phase of the project. And then section 3.2. This is important because you have to spend some time at the university website. And in this section, you have to show that there are many, within your host institution, that there are many offices, there are many small services available for you to enhance your career, to become a better scientist. So you have to, what we recommend is to go to the website of the hosting institution and try to find what kind of services they offer, right? So for instance, at TU Berlin, we have an EU office, we have a Central Institution for Scientific Training and Cooperation, and try to list how they will help you in your project implementation. So for instance, I got support from Service Research Data Center. So they helped me to prepare my data management plan. So I asked them, I got in touch with them, they send me some template, I work on it, I resend it. So show that you are in the good hands, that you get this support, that you will get a contact support, that somebody will take off your financial stuff, you know, solving your problems with traveling or your invoices, and all this kind of information should be provided in your in this section 3.2. And and then at the end, you should also mention that of this section, that the monitoring of research progress is very important, or you have to think about this, that you will be supervised by your supervisor, but your industrial partner, that you will be in touch constantly, that you will kind of revise your career development plan, that you will be always supported with many people. Because keep in mind that this project actually, as our first speaker said, this project is granted to the host institution kind of. So this is not, let's say, exactly the independent project. This is kind of a host institution project. So you have to mention that, you have to prove that they will take care of you in a good way. And then I got a lot of good comments for my graph, which I have also presented in this part of my proposal. So I will share it with you, so you can have a look how this was organized and how the reviewers liked it. That I'm here, yeah. So I'm the fellow, and I have presented how the supervisor, how the secretary will support me within the group I'm working in. Then I'm showing that within the institution, which services will, which departments will help me with my project. here, yeah, that I will have a project management, financial management officer, and so on. And then I show how my supervisor, my official, let's say, second-man supervisor, will also help me. That we will have, you know, these kind of quarterly progress review meetings and so on. And then in my project, I also had two, let's say, partner institutions, which are not, they don't get any funding. They just kind of included in my project that I'm cooperating with them. So it's a Korean university and another company, which is helping me to find some solutions how to test the 3D printed elements, because as I said before, we don't have some standards for 3D printing, so they are also assisting me. So that's the way I have presented, and I really recommend you to do something similar to mine, so you will show to the reviewers that you know how your project will be managed. And again, in this section, you also have to present a risk management to show that you are also that you know that you might have some problems during your project implementation. And this is actually what happened in mine and Nicola's project is you know, the COVID pandemic. At that time, we didn't know that this can be one of the risks, because when I was and Nicola applying, there was no even idea about COVID. But now I think mentioning as one of the risks some potential pandemic would be very important. So here's the example from my project that I kind of had. I think in total I had 4 risks, but here I'm presenting you 2. So, you know, for instance, I have mentioned that I will try different ways of printing or developing different models of printing, because I might not be succeed with some of them. So these kind of solutions are important to show to the reviewer that you know how you will solve your problems if you will have any. So I also got a lot of comments for that they really like it, that it was presented in the table, and I have discussed the potential risks occurring during the project. And then at the end, the finals, the shortest, I would say, although it was, for me, it was pretty okay. I have increased the size of the font, but it was kind of a small section at the end to show that you will have access to the key research and administrative infrastructure. So this is important to mention, that you will have access to the proper devices. Obviously, don't go too much in details. Don't put the names, because you don't have too much space for that. But try to mention which kind of devices you will be able to use. And try to kind of link, if you have industrial partner or you have some another partners which are not the second-man partners, but maybe some other people involved in the project, that this combination will be very good for you, that you chose to kind of finish your project showing that the people who are involved in your project, they are really important. And you know, without them, the project will be not as good as it is. So try to kind of close the story, as we said, tell the story from the beginning and try to kind of close it at the end with some final sentence.
So I think we might even be on time, because we have scheduled like another 15 minutes and then the rest of the time for Q&A and closing. So I'll try to be within 10-15 minutes with part B2, but yeah, as it's less interesting, it won't take so much. So you saw it earlier, like that there's this part B1 and then part B2. So just to touch on that again, so you have part A and B of your proposal. Like part A, it's going to be the general information. We'll see it a bit at the end, like about the university, contact, address, and so on. The budget is basically calculated automatically. And then you have the part B, which has B1 and B2, and that actually becomes like an annex to the grant agreement once you get the project approved for funding. So your technical proposal actually becomes an annex to the grant agreement with the European Commission. B1 was the one that's evaluated. B2 is the one that provides further information. Okay, it has like 4 sections, 3 actually obligatory, and the 4th one is only for global fellowship, so for going outside of Europe. Okay, so section 4 is CV of the experienced researcher. Again, that's you. That's 5 pages limit. Section 5, capacities of the participating organizations, 1 page overview plus 1 page per organization. This also has limits. Section 6, ethical aspects with no limits, and section 7, letters of commitment of partner organizations for global fellowships only. Okay, so section 4, CV. This is the information that's provided in the guide for applicants and the project and the proposal template. So there is no template per se. as I say here, right, there's only like general guidance about what it should contain and what is the minimum of things that it should contain, right? So at the minimum, the CV should contain like the name, professional experience in reverse chronological order using exact dates. So bolded, right, exact dates, education in reverse chronological order using exact dates. And then it can also contain, and then everything, right? Publications in whatever type of publication, patents, monographs, chapters, invitations to present on conferences, presentations at conferences, research stays, expeditions, participating in organization of events, of international, national conferences, right? So any type of thing, right? The advice here would, for my part, the good advice that I got and that I used was that I used the ERC template. So ERC, for those who don't know, it's the European Research Council, and it has, let's say, its own grants. Well, it's within the Horizon framework, but it's a specific type of grant. It's also individual. It's, I mean, one of the, let's say, largest in euro amounts and most prestigious grants that are actually judged only on excellence. So here we have excellence, impact, and implementation. They are only judged on excellence, and they do have a template for CV. So there are ERC starting, consolidator, advanced grants. You can look up starting, those like for researchers who have got their PhD between 2 and 7 years from now in the past. And you can use this template. It has a good format, and it does have sections for all of these things. You can add others and change them, eliminate what you don't have, and so on. But this is my advice, because it kind of makes you seem informed and serious, like about your academic career, because you already you know about ERC grants, maybe you're thinking about this in the future, and so on. And if the reviewer is from this, let's say, world, he will understand this language, let's say, or this formatting, so it sends a good message. So this is my advice, but again, it's not obligatory. The obligatory thing is that it's under 5 pages. Okay, so this is important. And another thing about that, so the proposal that's limited to 10 pages, this 5 pages, like, what does that mean? You can submit a proposal that's longer than 10 pages. The system will accept it, but once like the proposal is generated, it will cut off and delete everything after the 10-page mark, right? So you can have 12 pages, it just won't show to the reviewers the last 2 pages, and you will be stuck with an incomplete proposal. So same goes here. Section 5, capacities of the participating organizations. So you're going to have 1-page overview. That's going to be a table on the left, basically. So it's going to be less than 1 page. And then on the right, 1 page per organization. So here on the left side, the overview, you put the participating organization. So don't get confused, like the beneficiary, that's your host, that's the university. They are the beneficiary of the project. So they are the ones signing the grant agreement with the European Commission, not you. But in the grant agreement, it says that by name, you know, this person will be hired as the researcher on this project. So the beneficiary is the university. If you have a secondment in a company, it's going to be the partner organization. So here at the bottom, but take care, because there's also this entry. It says entity with a capital or legal link. That was, for example, my case. So the university here has a spin-off company in which it has a capital stake. Percentage of ownership. So simply by that fact, it's not an independent organization. So it can't be treated here as a separate partner organization, and it can't be counted as a secondment if you go there, work with them or whatever. But it can appear as an entity with a capital or legal link to the beneficiary. Okay, so it goes here. So one thing to keep in mind. If like your supervisor says, okay, we have this company, or there's some link like university center or something with which we can do, right? It's not going to be a secondment. It's okay for it to appear, but it's going to be this, the entity with a capital or legal link. And then on the right side, like you have this table repeated as many times as there are participants. So like at least for the beneficiary, compulsory, and then it's like optional for the entity with a capital or legal link, compulsory for global fellowships for partner organizations, and for secondments if you have them. And well, the table is kind of self-explanatory. It's like a general description. Here you have the name, legal entity, short name plus country, and you'll get this information from the entity. It will be, I mean, at least your beneficiary registered in the funding and tenders portal, so it will have its short name and so on. role and profile of key persons, department, division, laboratory, whatever. Here you like describe the key research facilities, infrastructure, and equipment, not necessarily only pertaining to your project, but also in general. But yeah, something that makes sense for the project. Independent research premises, yes or no. Previous and current involvement in research and training programs, relevant publications. So, for example, maximum 5, only list co-produced items co-produced by the supervisor. So it's pretty self-explanatory. The only thing to keep in mind is to keep it within one page, right? So when you remove this header here and then start writing up the text with the font limit, it's important to keep it within the prescribed size. Section 6, something that can seem a little daunting, like ethical aspects, and then you go into the proposal guidelines, and it kind of seems complicated. There's like a self-assessment procedure and so on, describing quite some detail, like how to do this ethics self-assessment, right, and how to, let's say, declare. But don't worry, it's really not complicated. For example, here I pasted what was in my proposal. It's I mean, you honestly have to look at like what you'll be doing, right? So, I mean, if you're using stem cells in concrete, then yeah, you need to do a self-assessment. But let's say for generic civil engineering stuff, it's probably not going to be a problem. Go through the guidelines, see what is the self-assessment. But in the end, probably it's going to end up as simple as this project proposal does not raise any ethical issues as determined by the Horizon 2020, now in your case, Horizon Europe program guidance, how to complete your ethics self-assessment, and as stated in part A of this proposal. Because in part A, you're going to have a questionnaire, and that's going to be the self-assessment, like, are you using stem cells? Are you using animal tissue? Are you using live animals? So on, human subjects, trial surveys, and so on. All project activities will be carried out in compliance with ethical principles and applicable international, EU, and national law. And it's as simple as that. Later, once you get the project, you might get like an obligatory deliverable to create a data protection plan, but that's now general because you're making a website, social media, you're collecting some data, whether you want it or not. So GDPR applies. So, but that's no big deal. And probably something like health and safety. Because you're working maybe in a laboratory with material, whatever, it's maybe not hazardous, but still there can be injuries and so on. So this kind of thing. But for this section, it's really not very difficult. It's just as simple as doing this. And really finally, for the end, a proposal submission. And just to touch upon, you heard from Tomasz that you should go to the EU funding and tenders portal. It's really strong advice to register and play around with the portal, explore. It's a pity that the call will not be open, it seems, until the end of June, because then you cannot enter into like something that looks like this generally and start putting in information, already kind of filling it out. And even more importantly, from here, you can download the rich text format file, like the Word document for the proposal, so that you can really start writing directly in something that's already formatted as per the requirements. But yeah, do that as soon as possible. Register here, start looking around and submitting things, because you will need to prepare some other stuff, not just part B. There are these part A, which stands for administrative forms. You will need to prepare like an abstract up to 2,000 characters. For that, it's also good to go to Cordis, the database of funded projects, or look up individual fellowships, see how these abstracts are generally structured. You'll need to select keywords, your fields of science. You will need to find out the contacts of the host, so adding contacts of the supervisor of the university's European project office if they have, or some other department. So you need to do that on time. And yeah, as also Tomasz pointed out, do it on time to avoid technical problems that, Murphy's Law, they'll definitely occur if you didn't submit like until the last day. Well, that's when your laptop gets stolen, the whole internet, Google crashes and so on. So, do it in advance. The important thing is that at least up till now, it works so that you can submit and then just keep updating the files. So once you click submit, it's not like, it's over, game over, you can't do anything. No. It actually stays submitted just until the deadline. So you can keep resubmitting new files, and simply what is the latest file at the date and time of closure of the call, that's going to be the proposal. So for me, it was like I submitted something like 3 weeks in advance, and maybe a few times I updated something, I was proofreading and so on, but at least I was comfortable that, something has been submitted, so whatever, if something happens, okay, there is a proposal submitted. So do it like that. That's really a recommendation. And that's it, basically.